Ryan had always been fascinated by old houses. To him, they were not just buildings, they were stories waiting to be uncovered. Every crack in the wall, every faded wallpaper, and every creaking floorboard seemed to whisper secrets of the past. One rainy afternoon, while browsing online listings, Ryan's eyes caught a strange property. It was an old house, completely overgrown with vines and weeds, standing at the edge of a small town. The price was shockingly low. Just a few pennies. Curiosity immediately took over him. Why would a house like this, so large and full of potential, be sold for almost nothing? Without wasting a moment, Ryan called the agent and arranged a visit. As he drove along the narrow, twisting road, he saw the house for the first time. It was hidden behind thick trees, its roof sagging and paint flaking off in large chunks. The garden was wild, filled with tall grass and tangled bushes. From a distance, it looked almost forgotten, like the world had moved on and left it behind. When Ryan stepped out of his car and walked up the stone path, he felt a mixture of excitement and unease. The front door was old, with paint peeling away, and it groaned loudly as he pushed it open. Inside, the house smelled of damp wood and dust. Sunlight fell through broken windows, creating patterns on the floor. Sheets covered the furniture, making the room look like it had frozen in time. The air was still and quiet, as if the house was holding its breath, waiting for someone to awaken it. He explored carefully. The living room had a large fireplace with a thick layer of dust on the mantel. The kitchen was small but had charm, the counters were cracked, and an old stove sat in the corner, long unused. Upstairs, the bedrooms were cold and dark. The wooden floors creaked under his steps. Despite the decay, Ryan could see the potential. He imagined fresh paint on the walls, sunlight pouring through cleaned windows, and the house returning to life. While exploring the attic, Ryan noticed something unusual. A small trapdoor was hidden under a pile of old blankets and boxes. It had obviously not been opened in decades. Ryan's heart beat faster. He carefully lifted the trapdoor. Beneath it was a narrow staircase, dark and dusty. Ryan grabbed a flashlight from his bag and climbed down slowly, trying to make as little noise as possible. At the bottom, he found a hidden room. It was small but well kept, as if someone had intended it to remain a secret for a very long time. Shelves lined the walls, filled with boxes of papers, photographs, and objects wrapped in cloth. The air smelled faintly of old paper and wood. Ryan approached one of the boxes and gently opened it. Inside were hundreds of letters, tied in bundles with faded ribbons. Most of the letters were addressed to a woman named Margaret. They were old, some over 50 years old, with careful handwriting and tender words. Ryan could not believe it. This house had not only been abandoned, but had held a person's private life hidden away for decades. Each letter revealed small details about someone's dreams, joys, and struggles. Some described happy moments in the house, while others spoke of sadness and loss. Ryan realized that whoever had lived here had loved this house dearly and wanted to keep their memories safe. In the corner of the room, he noticed a large chest. It was locked, but the lock was old and rusty. With some effort, Ryan broke it open. Inside, he found treasures he had never expected. There were gold rings, silver necklaces, and small boxes filled with rare coins. The chest also contained old watches and delicate trinkets. Some were dusty, but it was clear that they were valuable and carefully preserved. Ryan was astonished. He had bought this house for almost nothing and discovered a hidden treasure within. He sat down on the floor, trying to process what he had found. Who had kept all this hidden? Why was it left behind? Ryan realized that the house had a story far deeper than he had imagined. It was not just an abandoned building, it was a vault of memories and secrets, waiting for someone curious enough to find them. As he explored more, Ryan found other small surprises. In one box, there were photographs of the house from many years ago. They showed happy families, children playing in the garden, and gatherings in the living room. It was as if the house had been alive, full of laughter and warmth. In another box, he discovered old journals, written in careful handwriting, describing daily life and dreams for the future. Ryan was amazed at the care taken to preserve these memories. Suddenly, he noticed a pattern. Some letters and journals mentioned a hidden room and a special collection. Could the chest he had found be part of that collection? Ryan realized that there might be more to uncover in this house. The thought excited him. He knew that finding the chest was only the beginning. There were still secrets waiting to be discovered, stories buried in the walls, and mysteries hidden in the floorboards. Ryan felt a strange connection to the house. It was as if it had been waiting for him, choosing the right person to reveal its secrets. He decided to take his time. He would restore the house slowly, uncovering every detail and preserving the history it held. For him, this was more than just a renovation project. It was a journey into the past, a chance to revive memories that had been forgotten. As the evening sun cast long shadows across the overgrown garden, Ryan stepped outside for a moment to breathe. The house looked mysterious and quiet, almost like it was watching him. He knew that this was just the beginning of something extraordinary. The town had long forgotten this place, but Ryan had found it. And soon, everyone would be shocked by the secrets hidden inside. For now, he packed the letters and journals carefully, planning to read them one by one. He examined the chest again, imagining the hands that had placed each treasure inside decades ago. Each object had a story. Each item had a history. And Ryan was the first person in many years to step into this hidden world. As he turned off his flashlight and climbed back upstairs, he felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. There were still more rooms to explore, more boxes to open, and perhaps more secrets waiting to be discovered. Ryan knew that this house, bought for almost nothing, held mysteries that could shock anyone who saw them. And he could hardly wait to uncover them all. Ryan spent the night thinking about the hidden room and the treasures he had discovered. The letters, photographs, and journals told stories of a life full of care and love. Yet, there was something strange. Many of the writings hinted at secrets that no one was supposed to find. A hidden collection, a room that only certain people could enter, and a mysterious event that had changed everything. Ryan could not stop thinking about what had happened here. The next morning, he returned to the house. The sunlight made the overgrown garden look bright, but the house itself still appeared dark and mysterious. Ryan unlocked the front door and stepped inside. He decided to start exploring other parts of the house that he had not checked before. He wanted to know every corner, every floor, and every wall. Something about the house felt alive, as if it were waiting for him to discover its full story. Ryan went into what had once been the master bedroom. The walls were faded, and the wooden floor was worn, but there were signs that someone had once cared for this room deeply. On the dresser, he noticed a small diary. Its cover was old and slightly torn. Carefully, he opened it. The first few pages were written in neat handwriting, describing ordinary life, cooking, cleaning, gardening. But as he turned the pages, the diary took a different tone. It spoke of fear, of hiding, and of protecting something very important. Ryan realized that this diary belonged to the person who had hidden the treasures in the chest. The writer spoke about keeping things safe from strangers, keeping the house a secret, and making sure no one would find certain items. There was mention of a room beneath the floor, and Ryan's heart skipped a beat. Could there be another hidden space? He remembered the trapdoor in the attic, but perhaps there were more hiding places he had not yet discovered. Determined to find out, Ryan went back to the attic. He carefully examined the floorboards, shining his flashlight across every corner. After several minutes, he noticed one floorboard that looked slightly different from the others. It was worn at the edges, and the nail heads were rusty. With effort, Ryan pried it up and discovered a small opening beneath it. Crawling into the space, he found a narrow crawlway that led to another small room. The new hidden room was darker than the first one and smelled strongly of old wood and earth. On the walls were shelves filled with more boxes and old trunks. Ryan's hands shook as he opened the first trunk. Inside, he found old maps, documents, and letters sealed in envelopes. Many of the papers had official stamps and signatures, which suggested they were important and possibly valuable in history. Ryan could feel the weight of history in his hands. As he continued searching, he came across a small cabinet with a locked drawer. Unlike the chest in the attic, this lock seemed newer, and it had a small keyhole. Ryan searched the room carefully and finally found a key hidden behind a loose brick in the wall. When he opened the drawer, he found something that made him freeze. Inside were small, carefully folded notes written in a code. The diary he had read the day before had mentioned coded messages, and now he understood why. These notes were meant to keep secrets hidden from anyone who might stumble upon the house. Ryan tried to read the notes. The symbols were strange, but some of the letters and numbers could be understood. He realized they described locations in the house and instructions for keeping the treasures safe. The notes also mentioned the vault, a place that had been hidden for decades. Ryan's mind raced. A vault in a house this old? It seemed impossible, yet all the evidence pointed to it. He decided to explore the basement next. The house had a small cellar under the kitchen, which he had checked quickly when he first arrived. This time, he examined it thoroughly. Behind a loose shelf, Ryan noticed a stone wall that looked slightly out of place. He pressed it gently, and to his surprise, the wall shifted. A small opening appeared, leading to a narrow stone passageway. It was dark and cold, but Ryan's flashlight revealed a path leading deep underground. Ryan stepped inside cautiously. The passageway was narrow and smelled damp. Every step echoed softly in the silence. After a few minutes, he came to a large metal door. The door had old rusted hinges but was solid and strong. He pushed it slowly, and it creaked open to reveal a room filled with more treasures than he had ever imagined. There were gold coins stacked in piles, antique jewelry in glass cases, rare books with leather covers, and paintings covered in dust. The room was clearly a vault, just as the coded notes had said. Ryan could not believe his eyes. The house had hidden this vault for decades. It was not just an old home, it was a secret treasure trove, carefully preserved by someone who had wanted it to remain hidden. As he walked through the room, he felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He realized that these treasures were not just valuable in money, they were pieces of history, memories, and stories waiting to be told. Among the treasures, Ryan noticed a small chest that looked different from the others. Inside were items that seemed personal, a locket with a faded photograph, a small handwritten note, and a delicate bracelet. The note was addressed to someone named Margaret, the same name mentioned in the letters and journals. The note spoke about love, family, and protecting what was important. Ryan understood now that the person who had lived here had hidden all these items with care, not for wealth, but to preserve memories and protect a legacy. Ryan spent hours in the vault, reading the notes, examining the treasures, and trying to piece together the story. It became clear that this house had been a sanctuary, a place where someone had stored the most precious parts of their life. The discoveries were incredible, but they also carried a weight. Ryan knew he could not simply take the treasures. They belonged to the story of the house and the people who had lived there. As he left the vault and returned to the main house, Ryan felt a sense of purpose. The house had chosen him, not just as a buyer, but as someone who could uncover and honor its secrets. He decided that he would restore the house carefully, preserving its history, and sharing the story with the world. The hidden treasures, letters, and diaries were more than objects. They were connections to the past, waiting for someone to recognize their importance. That night, Ryan sat by the fireplace, the letters and notes spread around him. He felt a deep respect for the people who had once lived here. They had hidden their treasures, their stories, and their memories to protect them, and now he had the chance to bring them back to life. The house was no longer just an abandoned building, it was a link to the past, full of secrets, history, and life waiting to be shared. After discovering the hidden vault, Ryan could hardly sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the treasures, the letters, and the photographs. The house had become more than a project for him, it had become a puzzle, a story that demanded to be understood. He spent the next morning organizing the letters, photographing the treasures, and taking careful notes. He wanted to preserve everything exactly as he had found it. Despite his excitement, Ryan knew he could not keep the discoveries a secret for long. The house was large and old, and people in the town were curious. As he worked outside in the overgrown garden, neighbors began to notice his activity. Slowly, people approached, asking questions about the renovations. Ryan smiled politely and explained that he had bought an old house and was planning to restore it. He said nothing about the hidden rooms or the treasures, not yet. Among the neighbors was Mr. Lewis, an elderly man who had lived in the town for over 60 years. Mr. Lewis had seen the house in its prime and remembered the family that once lived there. When he saw Ryan working, he walked over with curiosity in his eyes. "That house has always been full of stories," Mr. Lewis said quietly. "Not many people know, but it has secrets that go back a long time. You've been very lucky to get it." Ryan's interest peaked immediately. "Secrets?" he asked. "What do you mean?" Mr. Lewis hesitated. He looked around, as if afraid someone else might hear. "I don't know everything, but I remember hearing about a hidden vault. Years ago, the family who lived there kept important things safe from everyone. Some of it was valuable and some of it, well, it was personal. Very few people ever saw it." Ryan felt a chill. He realized that the town had always known, at least in whispers, that this house was unusual. The hidden vault he had found was not just a personal discovery, it was a part of local history. He nodded politely to Mr. Lewis, thanking him for the information, but kept his plans secret. He wanted to fully understand the house before sharing anything with anyone else. Over the next few days, more neighbors came by. Some were curious about the renovations, others remembered the old family who had lived there. One woman named Clara told Ryan about the children who had once played in the garden. "They were happy children," she said. "The house was always full of life. After they moved away, no one wanted to go near it. People said it was different, but no one really knew why." Ryan listened carefully. Every story, every memory, added pieces to the puzzle. The house was not just abandoned, it had been part of the town's history. And now, he had the chance to bring its story back to life. Despite the growing attention, Ryan continued his work quietly. He cleaned the rooms, repaired broken windows, and strengthened the floors. Inside the hidden rooms, he catalogued every letter, photograph, and treasure. Some of the objects were fragile, so he handled them with care. Every discovery made him more certain that the house had been protected for a reason. The person who had hidden these things had wanted them to survive for decades, and now Ryan was the one responsible for keeping them safe. One afternoon, while organizing a box of letters, Ryan found something unusual. A small envelope, sealed with red wax, was hidden at the bottom. The paper inside was delicate and smelled faintly of lavender. It was a letter, written in the same neat handwriting as the others, but this one was different. It mentioned a plan to hide a very important item in a secret location, one that could only be accessed with knowledge passed down through generations. The letter also mentioned a warning: the item must never fall into the wrong hands. Ryan's heart raced. Could there be even more hidden treasures, even more secrets waiting to be discovered? He realized that the house was not only a place of memories and personal items, it was a carefully protected site, full of mysteries that had been kept safe for decades. The responsibility weighed heavily on him, but it also excited him. He was ready to uncover the truth, piece by piece. Meanwhile, word of Ryan's renovations began to spread more widely. People in the town became curious, and a few journalists arrived, hoping to see the mysterious house. Ryan welcomed them, but he carefully avoided mentioning the hidden rooms or treasures. He told them about the architecture, the history of the building, and the beauty of the old garden. Everyone was impressed by his dedication, but Ryan knew he had to keep the most important secrets safe until he fully understood them. One evening, as he was locking up the house, Ryan noticed a stranger watching from the edge of the garden. The man was tall, wearing a hat pulled low over his face, and he did not approach. Ryan felt a strange sense of unease. Could this stranger have heard about the hidden treasures? He quickly closed the curtains and made sure all doors were locked. The house had already begun to attract attention, and now he realized it might not always be safe. Determined to protect the house and its secrets, Ryan started planning carefully. He installed stronger locks, moved some items to safer places, and made detailed notes about where everything was located. He wanted to be prepared for anything, while also continuing to explore. There were still parts of the house he had not fully examined. He suspected that the most important secrets were yet to be discovered. The next day, Ryan returned to the hidden vault. He examined the treasures again, paying attention to the notes and letters. One document mentioned a hidden compartment within a wall. Excited, Ryan began tapping along the walls, listening for hollow sounds. After several hours, he found a small section that sounded different. With careful effort, he pried it open and discovered a thin metal box. Inside were more letters, photographs, and a small, intricately carved wooden key. The key was unlike any he had ever seen. It looked old, fragile, and very important. Ryan realized that it must unlock something extremely valuable, something that had been protected for decades. The sense of mystery grew stronger. The house was no longer just an abandoned building filled with forgotten treasures. It was a puzzle, a story, and a secret that had waited for the right person to uncover it. Ryan knew that the next steps would be crucial. He needed to find what the key unlocked, understand the final secrets of the house, and protect them from anyone who might misuse them. At the same time, he also felt the responsibility to preserve the history of the house for the town. People were already curious, and soon, the full story would come to light. As the sun set behind the trees, casting long shadows across the overgrown garden, Ryan sat on the porch. He held the key in his hand, thinking about the journey ahead. The house had chosen him to uncover its secrets, and he was ready to continue. The discoveries so far had been incredible, but he knew the most shocking revelations were still waiting inside. Ryan could hardly sleep that night. The small, intricately carved wooden key he had found in the hidden compartment haunted his thoughts. He turned it over in his hand again and again, wondering what it could unlock. Every letter, every photograph, and every treasure he had discovered so far seemed to lead to this moment. The house had kept its greatest secret hidden, and he was about to find it. The next morning, Ryan returned to the house early. Sunlight streamed through the broken windows, dust dancing in the beams. He felt a mixture of excitement and fear. He did not know what he would find, but he understood that this key was important. Carefully, he examined every locked drawer, every cabinet, and every chest he had seen before. After hours of searching, he finally noticed something unusual behind a bookshelf in the library. The bookshelf had stood there unnoticed, filled with old books. But Ryan's eyes caught a small outline in the wall behind it, a tiny keyhole hidden in the woodwork. His hands trembled as he inserted the wooden key. It fit perfectly. Slowly, he turned the key, and with a quiet click, a hidden panel slid open. Behind it was a narrow passageway, dimly lit by sunlight coming from a small opening at the end. Ryan took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air smelled of earth and old wood. The passage was narrow, forcing him to move carefully. The walls were lined with more boxes, all labeled in neat handwriting. He passed them quickly, focusing on the small door at the end of the passage. It looked different from the others, heavier, made of solid oak, with iron hinges and a brass handle. This had to be the final secret. He pushed the door open slowly. The room beyond was unlike anything he had imagined. It was small but elegant, filled with carefully preserved objects. On a pedestal in the center of the room sat a large, sealed chest. Around the chest were old documents, photographs of the family who had once lived in the house, and journals written in perfect handwriting. Ryan felt as if he had stepped back in time, into a room that had been untouched for decades. Cautiously, he opened the chest. Inside were items that seemed priceless, not just in value but in meaning. There were gold coins, silver jewelry, and carefully wrapped objects that had clearly been treasured for generations. But what caught Ryan's attention most was a bundle of letters tied with a red ribbon. These letters were addressed to someone named Margaret, the same name he had seen in the other journals and notes. Ryan began reading the letters. They were personal, filled with memories, stories, and confessions. The writer spoke of protecting family secrets, preserving history, and making sure that no one could take these treasures for themselves. One letter explained why the house had been left abandoned. The family had wanted to disappear quietly, leaving behind their treasures, memories, and stories, trusting that someday someone worthy would find them. The final letter, carefully sealed, explained the purpose of the wooden key. It had been made for the person chosen to uncover the family's legacy. The letter described the vault and the secret room, and it emphasized the importance of respecting the treasures and the history of the house. Ryan understood now that he was not just a buyer of an old home. He had been chosen by the house itself to protect and honor its story. As he looked around the room, Ryan noticed one more object on a small table. It was a beautifully carved wooden box, smaller than the others but clearly important. He opened it carefully and found a collection of photographs and documents that no one outside the family had ever seen. The photographs showed family gatherings, celebrations, and moments of daily life. One photograph in particular showed a young girl holding a small chest, likely the one he had found in the attic years later. The girl's expression was serious, as if she knew the importance of what she was holding. Ryan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. The house had been more than a home. It had been a place where a family had hidden their most valuable possessions, both material and emotional, to protect their legacy. Every corner of the house, every secret room, and every hidden vault told a story of love, care, and careful planning. He realized that he had to make careful decisions. The treasures and documents could be of historical importance, and the letters revealed the emotions and thoughts of people long gone. Ryan decided that he would preserve everything exactly as he had found it. He would catalog each item, take photographs, and make careful notes. The house had entrusted him with its secrets, and he could not betray that trust. Over the next few days, Ryan worked tirelessly. He cleaned the secret room, organized the letters and photographs, and made a detailed inventory of the treasures. He took photographs of everything, making sure each item was recorded. The process was slow, but he understood that it was important to handle everything with care. He wanted to honor the history of the house, not disturb it. During this time, Ryan also reflected on the family who had lived in the house. They had hidden these treasures to protect their memories and their legacy. It was clear that they had trusted no one but the right person to find them. Now, Ryan realized that he had been chosen. The house had guided him to uncover its secrets, and he felt a deep sense of responsibility. One afternoon, while examining the vault again, Ryan noticed something unusual in a corner of the room. A loose tile on the floor looked out of place. He lifted it carefully and found a small compartment underneath. Inside was a tiny box, wrapped in soft cloth. When he opened it, he discovered an old keychain with the initials of the family members engraved on it. It was small and simple, but Ryan understood its meaning. It symbolized the family's connection to the house and to each other. Ryan smiled. He realized that the house was full of lessons, not just about treasure or history, but about care, trust, and responsibility. Every secret, every hidden object, and every letter carried a message. The house had been waiting for someone who would respect it, and now he had that chance. As he stepped outside into the sunlight, Ryan looked at the overgrown garden and the weathered exterior of the house. To an outsider, it might still look abandoned, strange, or even empty. But to him, it was full of life, history, and mystery. The house had been silent for decades, but now, through him, its story could be told. That evening, Ryan sat on the porch, thinking about the journey so far. The house had revealed so much already, yet he knew there were still stories he had not fully understood. He held the wooden key in his hand, feeling its weight and significance. The secrets he had uncovered were incredible, but they also carried responsibility. He knew that the final part of the story, the one that would truly shock everyone, was yet to come. Ryan took a deep breath and smiled. The house had chosen him, and he was ready. Ryan woke early the next morning, his mind buzzing with excitement and anticipation. After days of uncovering the secrets of the old house, he felt that the most important discovery was still ahead. He returned to the hidden vault, carefully carrying his flashlight and notebook. The air was cool and quiet, and even the overgrown garden outside seemed to be waiting. As he entered the secret room, he examined the treasures and letters once more. Every item he had discovered told a story, but Ryan felt there was one final piece missing, A clue that would explain why the house had been abandoned and why it had been left for someone like him to find. He carefully looked around the room, his eyes scanning the walls, the floor, and even the ceiling. His attention returned to the small wooden key he had found in the hidden compartment. There was one place in the room that he had not yet explored fully, a narrow cabinet built into the wall, almost invisible behind a pile of old books. Ryan moved the books aside and carefully opened the cabinet. Inside was a small, dust-covered box with a lock. The wooden key fit perfectly. Ryan held his breath as he turned the key. The lock clicked, and the box opened. Inside was a bundle of old papers, yellowed with age, and a folded piece of cloth. Ryan unfolded the cloth and gasped. Beneath it was a small, intricately carved wooden figurine. It was a family heirloom, delicate and beautiful, with the initials of the family carefully engraved on its base. Next to it were documents that revealed a shocking truth about the house. The papers told a story no one in the town had ever known. The house had once belonged to a family who were well respected in the community, but they had been forced to leave suddenly because of a misunderstanding. Many townspeople had believed the house was abandoned for years, but in reality, the family had hidden their most valuable possessions and fled to keep them safe. The documents included receipts, letters, and even photographs that proved the family's innocence and their careful planning to preserve their legacy. Ryan realized the magnitude of the discovery. Not only had he uncovered treasures, but he had also uncovered a piece of history that would clear the family's name and explain decades of mystery surrounding the house. The townspeople who had whispered about the house for years would be amazed. Ryan felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He had been entrusted with a secret that could change how the town remembered its own history. Determined to reveal the truth, Ryan decided to share the story carefully. He contacted a local historian, someone he knew could help verify the documents and treasures. Together, they studied the papers, letters, and photographs. Every item was authentic, every story verified. The historian confirmed that the house had indeed belonged to a family who had been forced to leave, but had hidden their treasures and memories to protect their legacy. The news spread slowly at first. Ryan invited the town's residents to see a special exhibition he had prepared in the house. The old living room was cleared and arranged carefully, with letters, photographs, and treasures displayed in glass cases. Residents entered the house with curiosity, and as they walked through the rooms, they could feel the history and mystery of the place. When Ryan shared the story of the family and their hidden treasures, the townspeople were shocked. Many had believed the house was abandoned and empty, but now they realized it had been a carefully preserved sanctuary for decades. People were amazed at the hidden vault, the secret rooms, and the treasures that had survived so many years. The letters and photographs brought tears to some eyes as they revealed the personal stories and memories of the family. Among the visitors was Mr. Lewis, the elderly neighbor who had first spoken to Ryan. He shook his head in disbelief. "I never thought I would see this," he said quietly. "All these years, I heard the stories, but I never imagined the truth. You have done something incredible, Ryan." Ryan smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not only discovered treasures but had also restored the family's story. He realized that the house was more than a building. It was a keeper of memories, a guardian of history, and now, a bridge between the past and present. The town, which had once ignored the old overgrown house, now celebrated it as a place of wonder and history. As the exhibition continued, Ryan received letters and messages from people who had once lived in the town or had family connected to the house. Some shared memories they had of visiting the home years ago, while others expressed amazement at the treasures and documents Ryan had uncovered. The house had become a symbol of discovery, respect, and the importance of preserving history. Ryan also realized that the treasures themselves had more than monetary value. Each object, from the gold coins to the photographs, told a story about the family, their life, and their love for the house. The experience taught him something important. The real treasure was not gold or silver, but the memories, stories, and history that had survived for decades. He knew that he had a responsibility to continue preserving them carefully. Over the next weeks, Ryan worked tirelessly to restore the house completely. He repaired the broken roof, repainted the walls, and cleaned every room. The overgrown garden was cleared, revealing the beauty it had once held. Visitors came from all around, curious to see the famous house that had once been abandoned and hidden. Ryan shared the story of the family, the hidden vault, and the treasures, making sure everyone understood the significance of the discovery. In the evenings, Ryan would sit by the fireplace in the living room, surrounded by the letters, photographs, and treasures. He felt a deep connection to the family who had hidden these items so many years ago. They had trusted no one but the right person to find their legacy, and now he had been that person. The house, once quiet and abandoned, was alive again, full of stories, memories, and history waiting to be appreciated. One day, while walking in the garden, Ryan found a small plaque that had been hidden under a pile of stones. It was engraved with the family name and a short message about preserving memories and protecting what is important. Ryan smiled, realizing that the house itself had been a teacher, showing him the value of history, care, and responsibility. The shocking discovery of the hidden treasures and documents had changed everything, not just for him, but for the entire town. The house had gone from being an abandoned, forgotten building to a symbol of wonder and history. People came to visit, learn, and appreciate the story it held. Ryan continued to care for the house, honoring the family who had hidden its secrets, and ensuring that their legacy would never be forgotten. He had started with curiosity and excitement, but he ended with a deep understanding of the power of history, memory, and trust. As the sun set behind the restored house, its walls gleaming in the golden light, Ryan stood at the edge of the garden. The house no longer looked forgotten. It looked alive, proud, and full of stories waiting to be shared. Ryan smiled, holding the wooden key in his hand. The journey had been long, full of mystery and surprises, but the reward was far greater than he could have imagined. The old overgrown house had revealed its secrets, shocked the town, and given Ryan a story he would treasure forever.